From my own experiences of working with children in care and living in care myself, I've got loads of opinions on what the system's like. One of which being, if you're deemed as a challenging or misbehaved young individual, you're more likely to become criminalised for minor offences, which then could lead to more serious offences.
First went into care when I was 13. Since then I've been in 16 different schools, 23 different placements. They've moved me from... my first placement was in Bolton, and they moved me from Bolton to Wales, from Wales to Leeds, from Leeds to Lincolnshire, Lincolnshire to Cornwall, Cornwall to Cumbria, just all around the country. Because of my behaviour.
So if you're deemed as a challenging or misbehaved young individual, you're more likely to not have your welfare needs met. You're more likely to end up in the criminal justice system, and you're more likely to not receive all your rights and entitlements. But on the other hand, if you're a well-behaved young person in care, you're more likely to receive all the correct support, go through education, and less likely to be involved in the criminal justice system, which is quite prejudiced if you think of it in a way, because the challenging young individuals are the ones that need more help because they're struggling in it, but the ones that are the bad ones who need more help, they get the less support, and then the lack of support encourages them more to do wrong, because they think that that's the only thing they can do, because no one's telling them the right thing to do, because they've got no positive role models to like push them in the right path.
My earliest memory was probably starting school in year 3. So I moved school, new people, scariest thing I'd probably ever done. But I'd also not been in school for long periods of time, so I felt very stupid.
Was my French class, my first memory in secondary school. I used to love that, and I used to love childcare as well.
My first school memory, I remember it being Easter. I was about 5, and we all had to make like eggs, like decorate an egg, and like there was like a competition. That was like my first memory. I can't really remember, like the teachers, they never really looked at us any different for being in care or not. And if they did it, it'd be like, if they'd seen a bruise or something, they'd be like extremely cautious about it. They'd ask a lot of questions, whereas the other kids who weren't in care, they wouldn't ask any questions.
The staff who was most supportive was Mr. Gibson. I could go to him and like after school or before, and he would help me with my homework. He would be there to listen because he knew what was the issues, what was going on at home. But he was my primary school.
We had people, teachers or teaching assistants who were supposed to be all about the care leavers, people in care and dealing with the people in care. But my year 4 teacher was probably the best, and she was called Mrs. Massey, and she was amazing. She knew my mum, my foster carer very, very well, because she'd had quite a few children in the school, and she was always great with us. We could always go and talk to her about anything at all.
When it comes to schools, I don't really think they care. They just tick the boxes, so unless they have to do something, they won't do it.
My overall impression of being in school, especially as someone in care, it was a lot harder. I was bullied because everyone knew I was in care because I was from a small town. And no one quite understood the amount of stuff you were going through anyway. Although I piled myself into books and reading because it was somewhere else for me to be, instead of in a classroom where people are calling you the foster freak.
If I look back now, I'm doing my GCSEs now and my qualifications now. I wanted that when I was at school, not later in life.
If you have an off day, they don't quite realise why you're having an off day, and they just think you're being naughty or you're just grumpy or whatever, but there's clearly a reason behind it. I used to have really off days whenever it was a contact day, because I never liked going, and it was always straight after school. So all day I'd be feeling really down because I'd be so nervous about going. And teachers never really understood that. They just saw you as not participating, not joining in, which made it a lot harder to deal with the day and to deal with what was then coming after school as well.
Well, I had social workers involved from when we was like 8 or 9, because my mum's got mental health issues. And when they was around, I didn't really mind because they used to just come pick us up and take me out for Mackies and stuff. But then as time went by and like they took us off my mum, I realised they are just there to do the jobs, to tick the boxes and get paid at the end of the day and then go home.
The amount of social workers I've had, bearing in mind I went into special guardianship when I was 14, between the period of 8 and 14, I'd say I'd had well over 10.
I have had, in social workers, what I can remember, about 4 or 5. I'm not 100% sure on top of my head. Aftercare workers, I had 1, and the relationships with them, my aftercare worker and one of the social workers, I remember, who was dead lovely, and now I'm good friends with them.
It got to the point where I had that many that one had come in and like 2 weeks later, a month later, when it was the next visit, it was somebody else, because they were swapping and changing and going to different jobs that often that you just got into a cycle of, and you know, you're not they say you can tell us everything, you can tell us anything you want, but then in 2 weeks of time it's somebody else that you then got to say that to, somebody else that you've got to deal with you. And it got to the point where I turned around and I said to my foster carer, I said, I'm not bothering anymore, I'm not saying anything. And my foster carer turned around every single time one came, don't expect anything from her, because she's had that many of years. She's not going to say anything to you now. She feels like it's pointless.
I had this one called Banu, she was lovely. She was my first ever social worker, and then when I turned 16, a few days before my 16th birthday, they turned around and told me that I don't get her anymore, get a leaving care worker. And that, to hit you all like that, is hard, because when you're in care, it's hard to get a professional relationship with anybody. And I did with her, and they turned around and said, right, you're going to have to meet somebody else now, explain your whole life again, and just let this person make decisions about your life who has no idea what's even going on.
When I went into care, I didn't know why. I got took from school and was basically lied to. The worker that I had at the time turned around and said that I was only visiting and that I was going back home the same day. It was only then that when I got to my foster carers that she explained it to me, which to this day I've always remembered and I don't think I will ever forget. And since then, she was always open and honest with me and my foster carer. Always told me what I wanted to know when I wanted to know it. I didn't have to go to reviews, I didn't have to do any of that because she told me everything anyway. And I think that was a lot. It was what I needed after being blatantly lied to at 8 years old. It's not something that you forget. It's not something, even if you want to forget it, you can't, because you feel like you've kind of been robbed of the truth, and they feel that you're only 8, so you're not really going to think into it, but you actually do, and it goes over and goes over and goes over in your head of, well, in actual fact, you said I was going home, so why have I not now gone home? Am I not good enough to go home?
The positive and the negative of the foster placement. The positive was I was dead settled, I was looked after. Yeah, I might have had my moments, but they dealt with it really well. They took me on holiday, they wanted to adopt me.
My foster placements I loved because it was like a family environment. It's just like when you transition into residential, everything's just different. Because when you're in a foster placement, it is like a family home. There's no posters on the walls, there's no locks on anything, there's no staff changing every day. You get quite comfortable and stuff, and you do get quite stable. Then when they move you into a care home, And it's just like, what are all these posters and all these rules, and why is there a lock on the fridge, and why is there certain times I can eat?
It was my last holiday, and I'll never forget this. Come back from Greece, or it was Turkey, it was one of them, because we was on a trip of both. And I come back. When I got back, my foster parents had to sit me down and discuss that I'm not going to be with them for a very long time, what was dead upsetting. From this day, I can remember it, and I remember that scared child. Where am I going to go? Who am I going to be looked at? Am I going to be loved the same I did? It was like just picking me up and throwing me. And when I ended up getting picked up from the foster placements, I did a runner, and they obviously found me, and I had no choice. I had to move, and they moved me to Buxton. Never been to Buxton in my life, didn't know what was going on, and I was scared and upset because all I wanted to do was stay with them. It was like a few months in, and I just had enough. And I remember doing a runner. I put myself in a risky situation. What I don't want to disclose, but I did put myself in a risky situation. What I felt is my fault, but it wasn't. And when the police brought me back, I was like, I don't want to be here and whatever else. I ended up being there, and I ended up going smashing my room up. Went into the front room where all the children used to do activities or watch TV. I remember grabbing the TV and just throwing it down the stairs. It was a struggle to move it, but I just got it at the top of the stairs and threw it down. The member of staff turned around and said I hit her, but she had no bruises on her from the TV. It missed her by that. And then I just got out and the police got me. Obviously I put up a run, but the police got me in the end, and I ended up going to a cell. Didn't know what was going on, ended up in this cell for 24 hours for criminal damage.
Another opinion I have is what we call your paper self, and what that is basically is what everything that happens to you in care is written down on paper, and it effectively arrives at your new placement before you do. So you could be the most ugliest person on paper, but a polite, well-mannered person in person. Yeah, but people judge you before you even get there because they've seen, oh, he's done this, he's smashed a window, or he's broken a door. So before you even get there, you get judged. And it's like, it's not even just moving placement, it's like trying to go to school, like trying to get in a good school or college, or if you get kicked out of school, no one wants you. And from my own experience, I got home tutored because no school would take me because my paper self was that bad. And I wouldn't say it was that bad. I just think they just overreacted on paper because they didn't like me as a person.
If you had to, like, because my offences, they look really, really bad, like, on paper. They look, because it'll say like assault or criminal damage or grievous bodily harm. If you actually look into it, it could be threatening someone, like smashing something, or just like literally just saying to somebody, I'm going to kill you or something. You can get, that goes down as an assault, so when someone sees that, they immediately think that you've hit somebody, even when you've not. So when a referral gets sent out, because that's what happens, like the process is that you'll leave a care home, your placement will end, and then it'll get sent across the country to different care homes, and then they'll say yes or no whether they want to take you or not. So when they see my paper self, they just say no, we don't want to take her, it's too much of a risk or something, but they don't actually come and meet me first, so they don't see what I'm like, they just see what I look like on paper, and I look like a psycho on paper. But if you actually meet me, I'm not actually that bad.
For any care leaver, anyone that's maybe had a positive outcome of maybe being in care can still see how easily it can go the other way, how easily that statement could actually be you. You could be the one in prison, you could be that one that's not had the support. It so easily could happen that you're not blind to it, you understand it.
Talking about that unnecessary criminalisation, where I've been unnecessarily criminalised, I was 15 in a care home in Leeds, and I've been there for 2 weeks. And in my opinion, if you move into a new placement, you're supposed to be able to eat the food that you want, because they don't give you money for food. So they make your food for you. So in my opinion, I should be able to eat what I want. And I've come in and she's making all this stuff that I didn't like. It was just vegetables and stuff. And I turned around to her and I said, I don't want to eat that. Can you make me something else? She goes, if you don't want to eat that, you don't eat it all. And I'm thinking, I'm 15, just moved into a new placement. I think it's in my right to eat what I want to eat. So I just grabbed the bolognese or whatever it was and just tipped it over the floor. And it was an empty threat, but she said she was going to restrain me. So I picked up a spoon and I said, I'll stab you with this. I thought nothing of it at all. I went and sat down in my front room with my arms crossed like this. 2 armed police officers walked in, pistols and tasers, and said, uncross your arms. I went, I didn't know what to say, I was 15, and they arrested me, and that went down as an assault. Just as an empty threat to say, if you restrain me, I will stab you with this. A ladle, a big spoon, and that's on my record, that was an assault. There was another one in Liverpool where I'd smashed 3 cups. The police come arrested me for criminal damage and charged me £60 for 3 cups. So that's £20 a cup, and they must have cost £2. So there's like 100% like difference there. I threw a crisp, or what's it, just one, at a staff member. The police come and arrested me for an assault.
When he actually got in trouble later down the line in 2010, in the criminal justice, there was no support or anything. When I was stood up in court, there was no support saying, look, she's been in care, this is probably where the background, and there was none of that. There was no one.
When you're in care, in terms of the criminal justice system, there's a magnifying glass over you at all times. So anything you do, you can be arrested for.
Nowadays, what they should do, especially when I was a child in care, was when I went into that cell, I would think, if you was at home, that wouldn't have happened. You wouldn't have gone into a criminal side. You would, because that's going to stick with you all the time.
So like if you're living at home, you smash a cup, or even just smash a window, it's very likely that your mum and dad will just go to your room, you're not having any pocket money, you're not having any dessert, and you're grounded, you're not allowed out. When you're in care, you get arrested for it, and that's on your record for life. They don't see it, they don't consider that you're in care, they don't ask you why you're doing it. They're just right, arrested, gone, on to the next placement, and then when you go around in vicious circles, they don't think why it's happening. And I feel like if at first they put me in a placement that could deal with my behaviour, I wouldn't have been able to stay in that place, and I would have got settled, and I wouldn't have moved so much. Because I've been moved so much now, I'm thinking, there's no point in getting settled anywhere, because you're just going to move me again.
So there's 78,000 kids that make up the care population, which is 0.5% of kids in general. You would think such a small number to the general public would be being well treated.
I've realised whenever you're happy somewhere in a placement, and my first foster placements, I was so happy. They wanted me to stay and I wanted to stay, but it was too expensive. I said, no, we're moving yet, and I thought, so you're determining my happiness on money. If I'm unhappy somewhere and I want to get moved, and I've got valid reasons, I'm like, I don't like the area, I've got no friends, I keep getting arrested, they can't deal with my behaviour, I'm self-harming, I'm using and abusing drugs, drinking, I need to get moved from here, I don't feel safe here. No, we're not moving you, because this is the most suitable placement for you. And half of the time it's not, it's cheaper, and they don't get like, half of the time it's just over money. So my placement does get determined over money, and the good ones are more expensive because you're getting good practice. So obviously you're going to pay more money. And the ones that you're paying less for, they don't deal with behaviour. The first hurdle, the minute they want to ring the police, they just ring the police. They don't have to give anybody a reason. They just say like, oh, we don't want her here no more, we just take her. And it's just so you've got me there for a few weeks to make a little bit of money and then just move me on again.
27% of aged 18 to 21 males in custody have experienced the care system and are care leavers. And that jumps up to 33% if you look specifically at 15 to 18 year olds.
Like the first time I went to court, I felt like, I won't lie, I felt like the big dog. I was like, oh, I got my first court date and everything. I thought it was hard, and I thought, yeah man, and I walked in there and I started crying my eyes out. I genuinely started crying because I thought, I don't want to go to jail. I'm too young to go to jail, do you know what I mean? I got put on tag, I think, the first time I went to court. I was thinking, 14? I'm on tag? Like, then after that, when you go to court, it's just, you're not really bothered, you get used to it.
I was scared because I've never been into prison, and it made me feel on my own There was times where I was phoning Samaritans. I had counselling. I was trying to get my family to come and see me, and it doesn't help when you get moved prisons. So I just felt like I was alone all the time.
61% of 15 to 18-year-old girls in custody have experienced care.
When I got out of prison, I had help, but I had to find it myself, and going to Salvation Army, what helped me, and they said to me, we're going to have to do a CRB, and I was like, I need to open up. And they took me on, but now when you go for jobs now, even that your licence is finished or that question comes along, do you answer it or do you just freeze it if they're going to do it? And some people, not just me, there's other people, they could be people who I've come across who are scared to fill that in. Don't get me wrong, I freeze sometimes and think, oops, do I do it? Do I fill it in? Do I go to speak to someone separately? Because it did affect me a few times for college, for work, getting your licence, getting quite a few things what I wanted to see myself in.
The worst thing for me about being in care was that I was used to like all the family stuff, like all the cuddles at night, the kisses to bed, the bedtime stories. And when you're going into care, they make out like it's going to be the same, like it's going to be a family environment, we're all going to be one big happy family. It never is, because they literally just take hold of any sense you had of a normal life, turn it upside down into a life of posters, being restrained, strange people walking into a place you're supposed to call home, unnecessary criminalisation.
I do believe that care leavers should have support throughout their lives, not just a pop in and a pop out sort of thing, because that's what they now say that they have to do. People who are not in the care system have that support whenever they're not in care. They can always turn to somebody. But who do people who have been in the care system turn to? People have their own family. Yeah, care leavers can have their own families and have to turn to, you know, their other halves, but surely there should be parents that they can turn to and things like that. I know I can turn to my foster carer, but not everybody has that opportunity. Not everyone gets close to their workers or foster carers to be able to do that. And I think it's quite, what's the word? Lonely. It's lonely to be a care leaver. And no one should have to feel lonely, even if they are 30, 40, and you can have your own children, but you still yourself feel lonely. You still feel like there's a piece of you missing, and that's not fair. There should be someone there to turn to talk to. And if these social services have had your life in their hands for so long, why should they not be there to turn to and talk to later down the line when you need someone to talk to?
How are you supposed to help yourself? Obviously, it's like it's all your own doing, it's your own responsibility and everything, but if you wasn't in care, you'd get your mum and your dad helping you, and because I'm in care, I have no support and I have to help myself. I have to get myself to these appointments, and if I can't, nobody helps me. So when it happens, and one day, say if I do end up going to jail, yeah, it will be my fault, but nobody's helped me. Nobody's helped me not offend or give me any assurance, or even literally just support me and just say everything's going to be alright, or even just say, why are you doing this? How can we help you? But they don't. It's just there's next appointment, just make sure you turn up, I was going to breach you and send you back to court. At the end of the day, when you're in care, no matter what aspect of care you was in, you get institutionalised. Everything about it, you're looking around you. Even just talking about it, it's it smells like institution, it looks like institution, it even sounds like institution, and in the end of it, you're literally just a violent piece of paper being passed around. Some people even look at you as a number. You're just nothing. You get lost in the system and you're in a circle, a vicious circle, and no one sees it until you end up hurt or dead, And in the end, it's just, this could have been prevented, but no one ever sees it until it actually happens.
What makes my experience of the care system different is that I had one person who pushed me. Although I had all these people coming in and out of my life, I had one person, my foster carer, who saw that I could do a lot better than my life that I was in beforehand, and she pushed me to do my SATs to a level that she knew that I could, because everybody else said that I couldn't achieve that. And I got to high school and I went from one of the bottom sets to one of the top sets by the time I finished in year 11. I was deputy head girl, I was prefect, I was into sports, I did all of that because that's what channeled my anger, and it helped me a lot. And I then went on to college because she said that I could, whereas no one expected it of me. And I think that's what made me want to do it more, because one person said that I could do it when everybody else said that I wasn't capable. And I did health and social care, and I got top marks in my class for that in college. And I went on to uni, and I've graduated 2 weeks ago in criminology and quantitative data analysis, in which no one, when I was 8 years old, would have think I was smart enough to go to college, go to uni and do any of that. But one person, which is astounding, and I'm probably the only person in my family that has been to university. And if I was still at home, I wouldn't have. Which is, it's weird to think of it as that way, and maybe, yeah, the care system has helped me in that, but I don't see it as the care system. I see it as my foster carer. She's a part of the care system, but her herself is the best thing that happened to me.
Every single one of my offences have been in care, either on the staff, on the care home itself, or on the other young people. I did not offend before coming to care. I didn't self-harm. I didn't smoke. I never had a fight. I never drank anything. I didn't even swear.
These kids are effectively being abandoned. Some are even hanging themselves in prison because they can't cope. Like, when you go to court, yeah. Well, when I was growing up and going through court and everything, did they even ask you the question, are you a care leaver, or are you in care? All these kids that are in care have experienced a significant amount of trauma, which can lead on to mental health issues and things like that, lack of confidence, anxiety, and all the rest of it. But instead of helping fixing them problems, through the criminal justice system, magistrates and judges seem to just put them in jail without even asking that question. To me, to make a better community for people in that type of situation, I'd want to rehabilitate them and keep them out here, because I don't think that some of them, maybe not all of them, are not mentally strong enough to cope with prison environments. I've seen it. I've been to jail and I've seen it myself. I've seen kids getting terrorized, self-harming, trying to kill themselves because they can't handle it. So why would you want to put someone who's experienced a significant amount of trauma through that? You're just setting them up to fail.